Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm author, leadership, and team development speaker Joe Woodley here with another key moment for faith. So thank you guys so much for joining me on today's broadcast. Before we go any further, make sure you click on the subscription button down at the bottom of the screen, subscribe to this channel, like this video, share videos on this channel, share them with your friends, your family, your neighbors, the guy down the street around the corner, and you know what, even your enemies. And they may just happen to become your friend. Also, take a look down in the description box below where you're certainly sure to find something to help you on this journey we call faith. Hey guys, today I have an absolutely extraordinary guest with me today. I am so pleased to have a survivor of domestic violence. She is an author, she's an advocate, she's doing amazing things in the community. Miss Nancy Gonzalez, she's a speaker, and her focus is really transforming minds and helping people to navigate the roadmap toward healing in their own lives. And so she's passionate about equipping audiences with the techniques to live better and not bitter. Now, we all need that because we know we've been through some situations that can certainly make us really bitter. And so she really helps people to navigate those things. She's a founder of Mustard Seed Bags of Courage. She founded that in 2016. It's a nonprofit organization with the mission to encourage victims of domestic violence to become survivors. This is a really huge topic here. I think especially in the body of Christ, we talked about this the other week about people kind of glossing over that within the body. She has won multiple awards for her ministry work and is nationally recognized in the magazine publication of Women's Day. So she's got some oomph behind her, ladies and gentlemen. Nancy's words are inspiring and they are empowering. She has overcome great adversity and makes me feel, and she makes people feel as if they can do anything as well. So Nancy, thank you so very much for joining me today. I've been excited. I've been really excited for like a week, and this is not an act. I really have, because this is such a great topic for me. I'm a child who saw domestic violence when I was smaller happen in my home, and so I understand some of the effects of those things. So why don't you talk to the audience, introduce yourself to the audience who's watching?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Joe. So yes, my name is Nancy, and I met my ex-husband actually when I was in high school. He was a great guy. We kind of parted our ways after high school. He went to one college, I went to another, but we always seemed to keep in touch. And as life moved forward, I realized that, wow, he's a really nice guy. I think I have a crush on him. So we started dating, and everything was just fantastic. It was a girl's dream. By the time he and I started dating, I had a child from my previous marriage, and he was taking care of me, he was taking care of him, and just everything was fantastic. So we decided to get married. We got married in June. By August, he started telling me what I should be wearing, who I should be hanging out with. I should not be calling my mom anymore or my sister anymore. And he moved me 400 miles away from my family.
Wow.
But I didn't see that as red flags. That was because he loved me so much. He wanted what was good for me. What did I know? He knew better. Right. Of course, hindsight is 2020. And I realize now that the red flags were just screaming at me and I was ignoring it. So like I said, we did get married and we moved, and little by little, he started to chip away at my dignity, at my confidence, telling me that I was fat, telling me that I was ugly, that I was worthless. I mean, you name it. But I always thought, well, at least he's not hitting me. I'm lucky. At least, okay, so he's telling me a few bad things. That all changed the night that he went out drinking with his friends. He came home. I was laying in bed, and he jumped on top of me while I was sleeping. I thought it was an intruder, so I started to push him off. And when I did, something in him snapped, and he just started to punch me and hit me and pull my hair. I honestly thought he was going to kill me that night.
Wow.
Well, the next day I had, confronted him about it. And of course, he denied it. He said he didn't remember anything, and I let it slide. Well, he didn't mean it. He's been really stressed at work, and it's okay. And there was always excuses for everything that he ever did to me. There was always excuses for it. Until about 14 years later, I said, I got to get out of this, because the physical abuse got worse. The mental and the emotional abuse got 100 times worse. So it took me about 2 years to create a plan for me to leave. I knew that I wasn't able to just get my kids and go. I had 3 kids by then, and I knew I couldn't just get my kids and go. So it took me about 2 years without even realizing I was creating an exit plan. That's exactly what I was doing. And I was able to save money without him knowing. I was able to purchase gift cards to grocery stores and to Bed Bath & Beyond and to fast food restaurants, so I knew I could feed my children after we left. And I did that for 2 whole years. By the time I left him, I had enough money to rent a house for a full year, along with tons. I had a stack, maybe this big, of gift cards, so that I knew I could feed them. I can at least get some stuff for our new place. So I was supposed to leave on April 15th, 2011, but on April 13th, 2011, 2 days before I was going to leave, and he didn't know I was going to leave, he was very irritated that day. Just something about him was off. And my son, who was 16 at the time, kept saying to me, Mom, we got to go tonight. Something is not right. Something's not sitting right with me. And at 10:22 p.m., I said to him, enough is enough. I'm out of here. And I took the kids and we left. So that in itself was just one of the biggest blessings, that I got in the car and left. But here was the issue that I came across. Even though I did have a house that I was going to rent, I didn't have power yet, and I didn't have furniture. So I didn't want my first night with my children to be in an empty, dark house. So I called one of my girlfriends, and I said, girl, I did it. I left. I have my kids with me, and I have nowhere to go. So she invited me over to her house. I stayed at her house for 2 days. The day after I woke up, the next day, I realized I didn't pack any toothbrushes. I didn't pack toothpaste or deodorant or any of those kind of things. So I had to depend on a friend to help me with that. And it really left me feeling so frustrated, because for 14 years, Joe, I heard, you're never going to make it without me. You're going to fail, and you're going to come back. And here I was 24 hours after I left, and I was already depending on someone. And I thought, is he right? I'm already depending on someone. How am I going to do this? Little did I know that that very moment, God had planted a seed inside of me. And I didn't know that that was happening. But 4 years later, I had heard a sermon on the radio that said, if you have the faith of a mustard seed, and if you know a mustard seed, it's this little, it's tiny. If you have that much faith, you can accomplish anything, absolutely anything. And God put upon me a thought that, why don't you put together some bags, fill them with toiletries, and give them out to other victims of domestic violence? Sounds like a great idea. I go to work. I put a Facebook post, very simple. Hey guys, I want to collect some things for some bags, some toiletries. I didn't even really have a thought. It was just, this is what I wanted to do. I figured I'll make maybe 5 or 6. I'll give them to the local shelter, and that was it. I did my deed, and I go on my merry way. Well, God had other plans. Because the next day, I ignored that post for the rest of the day because I was working. I'm a single mom, and life is crazy. The next day, when I look at Facebook on my phone, the post had literally gone viral. It was crazy. I had hundreds of people from all over wanting to donate. I had people that wanted to know what I was doing. I had news stations, local news stations calling me saying, what are you doing? We want to help. What can we do to help? So oh my gosh, what do I do now? So I thought,
Right.
okay, this is where God wants me to do this. Okay, so fine. I had to rent a storage unit the size of a 2-car garage for all the
Mm-hmm.
donations that I had. So I
Mm-hmm.
started to make these bags, and I thought, okay, we're going to do this. I started giving them out to different agencies, and I thought, okay, I'm done with my project. Nope. God said, you are not done yet. He
Yes.
planted inside of me, you need to now contact the police departments. So I
Mm.
contacted all of the police departments in my area. I live in Florida, in Clearwater, Florida. And I contacted all of them, including the sheriff's office. And I said, look, I give out these bags and this is what I do. Every single police department started to carry my bags. So
Wow.
now these bags were given out to victims, both male and female, of bags that they're able to take care of themselves. So now
Mm-hmm.
that provides some confidence, that provides some independence, and that
Yes.
provides freedom. That's what was
Mm-hmm.
so important with this, was the freedom.
Yes.
So I decided I got to make this into a nonprofit, because I had Target contacted me wanting to donate, and I had other big box companies wanting to donate to me. So I became a 501c3. But
Mm-hmm.
ever since I've started it, it's been nonstop. So they get one of our bags, which is great. But along with that, and this is something I didn't plan, I
Mm-hmm.
provide several services. So if someone contacts me, most of the time they're coming out of just nothing. So
Mm.
I help them get clothes. If they get a new place, I help them with their kitchen items, things to decorate their place, make their new place like home. I help them find a job. Some of them need cars, and I help them to find a place to get some financing. Really, basically anything that they need. I help them establish goals so they can figure out what it is that they want to do next. Because
Yes.
once they come to me, I want to break down those barriers of I can't do it. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
worthy. I'm not good enough. So I work
Mm-hmm.
very, very hard with them so that they do stay away from that abuser. And I help
Mm-hmm.
a lot of them create those exit plans. I've helped 9 women so far get out of that situation.
Mm-hmm.
But by the same token, I also teach them, okay, now don't go back. You're out
Right.
and you live this beautiful, blessed life,
Mm-hmm.
and I will help you do that, but here's what you need to do. So we create a
Right.
program that works for them. And now I do that with a lot of women that need help. They need a roadmap to what do I do next?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where I help them. And I'm just so passionate about it because I firmly believe I was supposed to experience domestic violence. I was supposed to live it because God knew I was going to come out of it. But now he uses me as his instrument to have that conversation with people, to bring awareness. I'm so passionate about bringing awareness to it because people just don't like to talk about it. So here I
Absolutely.
am constantly talking to people about it and saying it's okay, and I help them through it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so important. Hey guys, again, I'm here with Nancy Gonzalez. She's an author, she's a speaker, she's an abuse survivor, and she's an advocate. So if you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to share or to ask. She has a lot of resources. She is a book of knowledge herself on the issue. So I recommend you definitely feel free to ask those questions. Let me ask you, because I don't think I know of a person around who does not know of someone in their family, a friend, a neighbor who has experienced domestic violence. As I said earlier, when I was small, I saw the violence that happened, in my home, and I'm glad that my mom was like, "Hey, you can't come back in here." So I'm happy about that. But I've had other family members and I've had friends who kind of just go back and forth, and they kind of play this. It's this back and forth. It's kind of like I hate to say, a love hate sort of thing that's going on, and they're
Mhm.
bouncing around. Why do we see so much of that happening? Because I think it's much more prevalent than people want to admit. It's kind of like the dirty secret, because I knew people in my family who were dealing with it and I'm going through that situation, and like people just really didn't speak about it. They would, it was kind of like whispers. So
Mhm.
why do you think this is such a major issue, and why is and it being so prevalent? around the country? And then secondly, why do so many women and men, because men experience it as well, so why do so many people continue to go back and forth into those situations?
To answer your question of why they keep going back, it's called Stockholm Syndrome. And if you look it up, what it's going to explain to you is that when you are abused for a long period of time and someone is controlling you, you start to believe that what that person is telling you is true. So you get to the point that you are so dependent on your abuser, you honestly don't know how you're going to live without them. So what you do is you try to please that person and try to make things right and accept that behavior because that's all you know. So that's number one. So the first thing we got to do is help that person realize that that's not the case. You don't deserve this. This isn't your fault. You didn't create this. And no, this behavior is just absolutely not acceptable. So that's number one. Number two is that a lot of the people that I have dealt with, mainly women, but they honestly are just so lost. They just don't know because they've been controlled for so long. And I'll give you a good example to show the severity of it. I helped a woman. She was actually one of the first clients that I helped. And she left her abuser. I met her at her house to give her diapers for her baby and some toiletries for her. Her shirt was all bloody. Her neck, you could see the hand marks on her neck, and she had blood on her cheek. And you would think, boy, that's just good enough right there to say, I'm out of here. About 2 days later, she calls me and she says, I need to get milk for the kids. And I said, okay, I gave you a gift card to a grocery store. She says, oh, I know. I don't know how to grocery shop by myself.
Wow.
And I said, what? She says, I don't know how to grocery shop by myself. I've never done it. And I am petrified. I'm standing outside. I can't breathe. And I'm having a panic attack. So I stayed on the phone with her. And I said, we're going to do this together. So I stayed on the phone. And I said, we're going to go get that gallon of milk for your babies because they need the milk. And you can do this. So I had her walk through the store step by step, controlling her breathing, the whole thing. She got the gallon of milk. She was able to get and pay for it. And she walked outside and you would have thought she won the lottery because she did it. She bought something on her own. That's how controlled some of these women are. And it's so heartbreaking. And I will admit, I was one of them that was so controlled that when I left my abuser, I didn't even know myself. I didn't know what I liked anymore. I didn't have an opinion about anything. So to kind of circle around to answer your question, that's what it is. It's just that a lot of them they just don't know what else to do. And that's why I work so hard to keep reminding constantly that this isn't acceptable. You deserve so much better. You deserve someone to treat you well and to love you. And it's not just having another person. You need to love yourself. You need to respect yourself and say, I don't deserve this. And always have to remember that if you have young children, they're watching you and they're watching what you're doing. And that was the number one reason why I left. I didn't want my children to think that it was okay for a woman to be treated that way. And I also didn't want my children to think that a man should treat a woman that way. So I had to do it for them. That was paramount. The rest of the stuff for me, I knew I was going to get through it, but I do it for them. So it's all about control. They once they got you and they know that you're vulnerable to that, it's really hard to let go.
So what do you think is the largest or the biggest obstacle when you do make that decision? Because lots of women make that decision. So you've gotten to the point where you are fully committed to leaving. And, you're like, I'm not going to go back again. I'm not going to allow myself to go through this abuse anymore. What do you think is the largest obstacle for those women to, number one, be able to break free and then to be able to leave safely? Because I'm sure that when you make that decision that you're going to go, you're going to face resistance, and there's going to be there may be some violent repercussions or some other things that could come out of that. So what is the most difficult thing that or obstacle that you need to overcome in order to do that?
The number one reason that people tell me they stay is because of finances. They don't know where they're going to go. That's the number one reason. When they finally decide to go, I always will talk them through it and give them the steps, because when they actually leave, believe it or not, that is the most dangerous time for these victims.
Wow.
Because what happens is the abuser feels they're losing that control and they don't know how to handle that. So they would rather beat them to death if they have to, but at least they know they have that control. So that's number one. I always say, please be very, very careful. Either call the police or do it when they're not around. Then it takes quite a few times to say, I'm going to do this, and then actually do it. I lost count how many times I told my best friend I was leaving. Completely lost count, because just when you think I can do it, something happens in that picture that makes you think, well, maybe it's not so bad. My ex-husband used to buy me a piece of jewelry every time he would hit me. And by the time I left, unfortunately, I had a big collection. And so he would come with, I'm so sorry I hit you, honey. It's just I had a really stressful day and the kids were crying and I didn't know what to do. Here's a piece of jewelry and here's some flowers and this should make you happy. And then he would convince me, which is called gaslighting, by the way, convinced me that it was my fault. I was the one that was crazy, and I shouldn't have asked him how his day went. How dare I do that? Because he convinced me that that was the wrong thing to do. So it's not just packing up your bags and going. It's not that easy. But when they do decide, I always say, just please make a plan and figure out the safe way. Let your family, let your friends know what you're doing, people you can confide in, just for your safety.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey guys, again, I'm talking to Nancy Gonzalez. She is just sharing a wealth of information and wisdom. She's an author, she's a speaker, she is an abuse survivor and advocate. She also has this great website that you guys can check out, nancyencourages.com. So I encourage you guys to go there and check that out. And of course, we're taking Q&A, so you can feel free to either ask some questions here, or if you're dealing with some issues and you don't really want to talk about them publicly, you can also contact Nancy through her website, and you can talk to her directly, and she will definitely be able to assist you and help you and give you some guidance on how you can find your way out of those situations. So talk to me about the process of restoration, because shortly before we came on, we talked about, we had spoken last week about a little bit about some of the things you had gone through, but we talked about it was a long road to get to where you are now. Like this didn't just happen overnight. So you didn't just get out of that and then suddenly you're like, you're a warrior and you're ready to, take on the world. This took some time. So talk to the audience about that process, because a lot of people who may be out of that situation and they're struggling right now. They're like, okay, I've escaped. I'm out of it. I'm not dealing with the abuse. But now what do I do? What do I do with my life? So talk to the audience a little bit about that.
Absolutely. When I left that first year, I'll be honest with you, is a big blur in my life. It was very difficult. My number one priority were my children, of course, and they were young at the time. And when I did return back to the house to get some more belongings and the bedroom furniture, each kid had their own bedroom, and I slept on the floor for 6 months. And I don't say that to say, oh, look at me, I'm martyr mom. I say that because he wasn't laying next to me, and I cared less. I could have slept on a bench. I could have cared less because he wasn't next to me. So that first year was hard, because not only were my children going through this with me because they witnessed so much, but I went from being a stay-at-home mom to being active at their school and doing things with them to now I had to go find work, and I had to figure out I was going to put food on the table and pay the power bill and pay the water and everything else that the kids want, because I didn't know what to expect from their dad. So that first year, it was so hard. There were many, many nights that I went without having dinner so my kids can eat. But again, it was about them. It wasn't about me anymore. I got out. I did what I had to do, but it was about them. After that first year, I decided I really needed to focus on who I was. Like I said, I didn't even have an opinion on anything. I didn't know who I was. So I rented a small condo. When I say small, I mean small condo with my kids. To this day, they still tease me about it and they hated every minute of it. But it was in a gated community. And the reason that I did that is for that full year, I did nothing but focus on me. Yeah. I didn't go out with my friends. I didn't do any kind of socializing. I just hid from the world. I went to work, did things with my kids, and that was it. Because I had to figure out, what am I going to do with my life? I'm all grown up. Now what am I going to do? Right. And so that year I kind of did that. It was about into my third year that, okay, I got my momentum going. I think I figured this out. During our divorce, I asked the judge not to give me child support or alimony. The reason that I did that was simply because I knew if I did take child support or alimony, he was going to continue to control me, because then that means that every month I would have to go after him and give him the money, because I knew the games that he would play. So I was determined to do it on my own, simply because I heard for 14 years, you're never going to make it without me. And I wanted to prove him wrong. Call me stubborn, but I wanted to prove him wrong, and I wanted to prove to myself that I can do it. So yes, it was a very, very long process. And I'll be honest with you, I'm still growing. I'm still getting to know myself. And once that passion inside of me lit, that when I heard that sermon on the mustard seed, that's what did it for me. Yeah. Ever since then, life has just been so good. And I think it's just because I'm fulfilling the purpose that God has for me. So he keeps blessing me over and over and over again because I listen to him. But for those of you that are out there that are going through this, please understand that once you walk out that door, it's not all beautiful and just sunshine and rosy flowers. Right. It's a hard struggle. But here's the thing. Would you rather live life free from abuse and know that you can sleep soundly without being worried of waking up to get hit? Or do you want to go back to that life? I chose to live a life free of abuse because I was not going to go back to that. Absolutely not. And when you get your mindset and you're determined to accomplish this goal as big as it was, there's nothing stopping you. So you have to have that mindset and that faith that you're going to get through it. And you will. You will.
Absolutely.
Because you have to have that faith. God's going to be there where you got that mustard seed that it's always inside of me. And you just keep going.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know. You see, we have a question here from Cindy Welch. And she's asking, actually, she has several questions here. She says, so you got one of your great supporters here and says, Nancy, why did you choose to purchase gift cards? Number one. Secondly, were the cards easier to hide the purchase from your abuser? And then the final question is, did he control the money? Actually, not the final question. We got a, did he control the money as well? Which we know a lot of people who are abusive, that's what they'll do. They like to control the money. And is that a common occurrence? I'm going to leave those questions up there until, hopefully you can see them as well. So you'll be able to answer all of them through. Okay. All right. So I'm going to leave those up there as well.
I know Cindy Welch. So hi, Cindy. Okay, to answer your question, this is why I got credit cards. When you are in that survivor mode of what is it going to take for me to get out of here safe, let me tell you, you start becoming very creative. So he controlled my finances, but I started to notice that I would go grocery shopping and he wouldn't look at the receipt. So when the bill came, he would just pay it. So I started thinking, if I start buying things, he's not going to know. So when I would go grocery shopping, I would pick up a couple grocery to the grocery store, or maybe to a fast food. I remember Home Depot. I thought, what are some things I'm going to need when I'm on my own? And that's what I started to purchase. So I just kind of started putting them away little by little, hiding them, simply because he wouldn't see them. And the reason that I got them is because I knew they never expire and I can use them at any time. And let me tell you about the money, because it's actually a very interesting story. My ex-husband was very wealthy, and he was known for always having cash in his pocket. And with abusers, you start to understand their behaviors, and you can almost read them like a book. You can predict what they're going to do next. And I really started to study his behaviors. And I noticed that the mornings after we would go out, he would count his money. He was an alcoholic, well, still is. And he would drink to the point of passing out completely. And I could have a marching band come through our bedroom, he wouldn't even hear it. So I had what I have now called my degrees of how upset I was with him. If we were at a restaurant, he would sometimes leave me at the restaurant and he would go home, drive drunk, because he thought I was in the car with him. Or he would hit me for no reason, or just do all kinds of stuff. When he was sound asleep, I would go in his pocket and start taking money out little by little. So if you made me a little mad, I might just take $50. If you embarrassed me at a restaurant by yelling at me and leaving me there, oh yeah, buddy, I'm taking $200-300 out of your pocket.
Some of y'all need to hear this.
Yes. So the next morning, when he would count the money and he'd say, "Oh, honey, I have $200 missing. What's wrong?" I remember, he doesn't remember what happened. I'd say, "Don't you remember? You gave the valet guy $200 for parking your car." And he'd say, "I did." "You did." And he said, "Well, why wouldn't you stop me?" "Oh, I didn't want to embarrass you and you were upset." "Well, don't ever let me do that again." I did that for 2 years.
Wow.
Joe, by the time I left, are you ready for this? I had $36,000.
Wow.
I became so obsessed with saving money because he wasn't going to give it to me. And I knew that once I left, he was going to make my life a living hell. I was taking things into my own hands. So without him even realizing, I was already taking care of myself. So with that money, I was able to pay rent on a house for 1 full year. So that money that I got paid the rent. That was it. That was it. It paid the rent. I still had power and water and all of that stuff. So by having those gift cards, that kind of gave me a little bit of a flexibility as far as, okay, so I'm going to be okay with groceries for a while. With the Bath and Beyond gift cards, I split them up between the 3 kids and I let them all get new comforters and things for their bedrooms and things for the house so they can make it home. They can make it their own. And I know it sounds like it's just such a crazy story, but what I always tell people is you have to start really watching their behaviors and what it is that they do. Because once you get in that mode of survivor and I'm going to beat this, I'm going to get out of here safely, you'll start to see things that you can do to save money and to buy these gift cards and do these things. Because honestly, when I was doing this, first of all, I didn't even realize I was in an abusive relationship. I really didn't, because I didn't know anyone that was in that kind of thing. But also, I just knew that I had to do this in order for me to get out. And to this day, he doesn't even know, unless if he's watching our show right now, he didn't know that. And it took me years to share that part of it, but I think it's just dynamic to show the extent that you will go to get out of it. So, it's kind of funny looking back now, because the money that I did save, I saved it in a makeup bag, and it came full circle because I used makeup bags to give to survivors. So it's kind of funny how I hid the money in there, yet that's what I used for the survivors.
Absolutely. I think that's so extraordinary because you're dropping some major hints there that you were very strategic in what you did in preparing yourself. Because like I said, a lot of individuals who are trying to get out of those situations,
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing how all this kind of like lines up. They're kind of like back and forth because they're not strategic. They're like, okay, I'm going to get out of there. And then they haven't really prepared. As you said, some of the financial obstacles that they end up
Yeah.
facing force them into a position where they feel like they have to go back. And I love how you did that, where you talk about, every once in a while, I'll take a little bit out, a little bit out. I really mean that some of you guys did to take lessons from that because you're in situations that you're really struggling with and are very difficult, and you do need to get out of that so you can get out safely and
Absolutely.
alive. That's so
Mhm.
important. Talk to me about faith and the role that faith plays in coming out of those situations, because we're going to get into some little bit of dynamics here. And I really want you to talk about the products and the services that you offer, because I think it's going to be really important for you guys to support what Nancy is doing, and partner with her in what she's doing to really, really save people's lives. I mean, it's really about saving people's lives, and not just saving their lives in the sense of keeping them alive physically, but there's a lot of people who are in these situations who are dying emotionally, dying spiritually, because they're in those abusive situations. But let's talk a little bit about the role that faith plays in this. Because again, as we were talking last week, and I said, some of the church's role in helping to facilitate individuals coming out of those situations, or the religious institution's role in facilitating that. Because I know that certainly when I was smaller, a lot of the times you would hear things like, sanctified wife makes a sanctified husband and all this other stuff. And so people would felt guilty leaving because it was presented in a way that you wanted to stick in there and you want to pray about it and all those other things. But let's really talk about the real role that faith plays in helping you to get out of those situations as well as thriving once you get beyond them.
When it dawned on me that he was an alcoholic, I started going to Al-Anon, because an
Mm,
Al-Anon is for family members of alcoholics.
mm,
And I started going thinking, okay, maybe I can get help this way. Maybe, just maybe, if he would stop drinking, it would solve our problems. So I
mm,
went that route. And I had a lot of those old school traditional folks that said to me, well, it's a disease. And if
mm.
he had cancer, would you leave? No, of course I wouldn't. But that's something totally different. And I
Right,
understand that
right.
alcoholism is a disease. And a lot of you might disagree with me when I say this, but it's also a choice. He did
Yep.
make a choice to pick up that bottle every single night and drink from it.
Mm-hmm.
So that didn't work for me. I felt defeated.
Mm,
I went to a couple church members that I was attending at the time, and because he portrayed that he was the greatest guy and this is what they do,
mm-hmm.
he was a great volunteer. He donated money, and I was just the luckiest girl in the world to be with
Mm-hmm.
someone like that. So when I went to some of my church members to say, can you help me? I want to get out. I don't feel safe. Oh, I'm sure you're just acting up, or, they dismissed it.
Wow.
And I got,
Wow.
you should be that wife that's there for him, and he's very stressed and that whole thing. And I kept thinking, there's no way that God wants me to live like this. I'm
No.
miserable. And how many times in the Bible do we read that God wants us to be happy? And
Right.
it was
Hey,
such a
before you continue, Nancy, could you say that again? Because I think that's a really, I want you to continue with that. It's just one of the few times I'll interrupt you, but that's such a major point because, as you said, you know, now you have people that are in the church who are in that circle are telling you, hey, you must have done, basically, they're saying you did something to deserve this.
Mhm.
You were acting out, so that's why you got slapped or punched or
Absolutely.
whatever else,
Absolutely.
and
He
you
was such
said
a
that it's not your fault. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was such a great guy. And so they just said, oh, just put up with it. And like I said, there's just no way. There was nothing in the world that can convince me that it was okay with God, what was
Mm.
happening. And
Right.
had nights that I cried to God and asked him, why is this happening to me? What have I done that is so wrong that I'm living this life? And I'll be honest with you, Joe, there were nights that I took God, just take me tonight. Just take me, because I can't do this anymore. It was just so difficult. And as I started to come and talk to more people and having them say to me, well, you should be listening to your husband. And, after all, he is the breadwinner and you are just a stay-at-home mom. No, I wasn't happy with that, because I knew God wanted me to be happy. How is that? How could I be living like that and God was okay with it?
Right.
And that became even more of a fire inside of me to get out and prove to the world that I can do this. I'm going to do this. And it was very, very difficult. But one thing that I will say is that the night that I left, it was April 13th, 2011, 10:22 p.m. I'll never forget that. When I tell you that I felt God's presence with me as I closed that door behind me, it was amazing. I can't even explain to you how I felt. And I remember getting in the car, and at that moment, I didn't have a plan. And I asked my kids if they were okay, because, of course, my ex-husband was outside screaming and banging on our windows of the car. And the kids go, we're going to be okay. And I just said, God's with us. We're good.
Yeah.
We're gone.
Yeah.
That's it. We're gone. And my faith just became so strong. Unfortunately, I stopped going to church for a while because I was so hurt by it.
Yeah.
And I did visit a couple churches that just didn't feel right. And I finally have come to the conclusion that God is my church. And I pray to him all the time. My faith is very, very strong. And I know that had it not been for him, I would have never gotten through this. And throughout all of this, he kept sending me angels. I told you the story of many days that I didn't even know what I was going to feed my kids. I would be at work going, oh my gosh, okay, what do I have in the fridge that I can put together? And I would come home within 20 minutes, an angel will appear at my door with a meal. Or someone would mail me, a card or something, because the gift cards that I bought, they only lasted me for a few months. I mean, I had 3 kids and eat a lot. So it was amazing how God just kept blessing me. And I just knew that he was with me, and he's never forsaken me. He's never stepped away. And anything that I've asked, he's always given to me on his time. That's something I had to learn. But definitely my faith, have I not had it, I can't imagine going through this without having a faith, whatever it may be. Because God, without a doubt, has been with me, still is. He's still here with me today, pushing me through. And now, like I said, now he's giving me direction of what I need to do and empower other people to go through this and make them better, instead of being so bitter, instead of being so angry at life. We're doing that. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I'm just so passionate about it.
Absolutely. It's so important, guys. I mean, that you have that faith. And, as Nancy's saying, it's just the size of the mustard seed. Jesus said, you have faith the size of the mustard seed. You can tell that mountain to move, and that mountain will move, whatever that situation that is in your life. So you got to have that faith, and definitely guarding your heart and guarding your ears, like you were saying, being in that situation and people in the church basically telling you, hey, you deserved it, and you must have done something, to get slapped or punched or kicked or whatever it is. And that's not okay. And I really feel like that needs to be really emphasized, because I do speak to a lot of believers on this channel, and who are going through those sorts of situations, those things like that. And they're like, well, maybe I've done something to deserve this, or maybe God is just, allowing me to. No. No, God is not going to allow you. That is not God's will for you to remain in a situation where you're being pulverized like that. That is not his plan for your life, And so I think take heed to what Nancy is saying, because, I know I don't want to see your name on the news. I'm sure your family members don't want to see your name on the news. And that's just being about as real as I can get. So, hey, Nancy, why don't you talk to us about a little bit about the services that you provide to individuals and the partnerships that you have? Because I think that's That's enormously important, because I don't want people to watch this show and they're hearing this great information and you're talking about all of these strategies, but they need some real tangible, not just tangible steps, but they need tangible organizations to tap into. And you have an organization that people can tap into. Your website talks about things that they can do. As a matter of fact, I was looking on your website, and I thought it was awesome that you have, your 5 strategies to be better and not bitter. So
Mhm.
talk to us about some of the things you have going on and how they can help guide people through some of these processes that they're going through, and either coming out of escaping from an abusive situation, or they're out of it and now they kind of like need to renew their minds and get their lives together.
Mhm. Absolutely. So on the website that you said, I have those strategies. You
Mm-hmm.
just put in your email and I'll send it to you. And those are just
Mm-hmm.
little tidbits that helped me along the way. And those are some of
Mm-hmm.
the tidbits that I give a lot of the victims that call me, because you are going to get angry and you're going to be upset over what has happened. But you got
Mm-hmm.
to understand that if you continue to live that way, number one, it's not healthy. It
Yeah.
eats at you. Number two, by doing that, you're still giving your abuser control.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to take that control back, then change your mindset and realize that now you're free from that abuse. And I tell a
Yes.
lot of people this: think of it this way. Once you've left your abuser, you have a blank canvas. But now you have control of that paintbrush. There's no one
Right.
controlling that paintbrush. So you can paint any picture that you want about your life. So what are you going to
Mm-hmm.
paint? You can paint
Right.
anything that you want. And so those are some of the things that I try to work with people.
Mm-hmm.
So I help a lot of women that are either have left their domestic violent relationship or have gone just through a divorce or big life change, and they just don't know what to do next.
Mm.
I try to help them to create, okay, what is it that you want to do? What is your ultimate goal? And what is it that we're going
Yes.
to do to get there? And that's what I do. I help them create those goals to get to the next spot. So that's one of
Mm-hmm.
the things that I do. As far as my nonprofit, I'm very, very active in my community. So I have
Mm.
partnered with other nonprofit agencies because I firmly believe that if we work together, we're going to accomplish so much more.
Yep.
So I work together with other nonprofits. Some of them are with domestic violence and some are not. But we
Mm-hmm.
work together to help out other humans because
Mm-hmm.
basically that's what God wants us to do. So we help out. For example, next week, I'm going to be joining a nonprofit that helps out foster children, and they fill duffel
Mm.
bags with things. We're going to go to represent Mustard Seed Bags of Courage, and we're going to be providing them with the toiletries. We're going to help them put the bags together. So
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of want to show that we do help other communities out because it's important. We got to stick together no matter
Yes.
what. Yes. So if you want to say, okay, well, how do I help out Mustard Seed? How do we help out our organization?
Mm-hmm.
You can go on nancyencourages.com, and if you slide down, you're going to see Mustard Seed. You can click on
Mm-hmm.
it, and I have an Amazon wish list that you can go on, and there is every product that we use for our bags, and purchase as much as you want, and it's shipped directly to me. Or
Mm-hmm.
if you want to make a monetary donation, we have a menu so you can see where your money is going. So for
Right.
example, if you donate $10, that's about what it costs to put a bag together.
Mm-hmm.
Or
Mm-hmm.
you can do $25, $30. That is what I use to buy gift cards for victims, either for a grocery store or a gas station.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can put money towards their professional development. So those dollars would go towards me helping them accomplish their goal, whatever it may be, whether it's finding a new
Right.
job, or whatever. But it's real important for me that I am so involved in the community
Mm-hmm.
because it's not only getting the word out about domestic violence, but I
Mm-hmm.
think it's just showing that partnership, that fellowship of helping each other out for
Yes.
the bottom line of, making a better world. And right now we need that. So,
Mm-hmm.
so I kind of do a little bit of everything, but it's going really well and I'm really, really happy with it. And then along with those things, I've also created some workshops that are very interactive. I have one that explains the details of domestic violence. What is the social definition? What is the legal definition? Why do victims stay? What could you do to help them? And what not to do? There's a lot of things that you should not do or say to a victim. So those are some of the things that I teach. I also have one that talks about healthy, unhealthy relationships. And I explain some of the red flags and the green flags, which means the good stuff and the bad stuff to look for in a relationship. Those are very popular because it really kind of puts it out there. It's a great workshop for families that have teenagers, young adults, especially in this world of technology with texting and all of that. So I kind of go through and explain, what parents should look for and not look for. So there's a lot of things that I offer, and I always tell them, if I can't help you, I will figure out a way to help you, because I know enough people that are in my tribe that help me that I know I can get help for someone else.
Absolutely. And we can't forget that you also have another great resource. There's a book that you have put together. So why don't you tell the audience all about that book and where they can get it from?
Yes. The book is called One Day at a Time. And day is spelled DAE, and it stands for Declarations, Affirmations, and Encouragement. So we have a couple hundred women that got together, and we decided to create this devotional book. It's filled with 365 stories of inspiration, of encouragement from each of us in our own way, explaining that no matter what you're going through, you can get through it. It is a beautiful book. If you want to purchase one, just go to nancyencourages.com and you will see a link there to purchase the book. And it will come to me, and I'll reach out to you, and we'll take care of everything else. But it's a beautiful, beautiful book, and I'm so proud to be part of it. I have 2 submissions in there, and I'm so proud to be part of these empowering women that are just inspiring the world and making a difference for really anybody that reads it. And I always tell people, buy one for yourself and buy one for someone else, because it is so good. You're going to want to share it with someone that you know. So go to nancyencourages.com and they can purchase it there.
And you guys definitely want to make sure that you're supporting what Nancy is doing at Nancy's organization, because much to see the faith. Because I'm telling you right now, I'm looking at this book, and it is absolutely a gorgeous book. It's One Day at a Time. So I'm going to repeat that DAE at a time. And it's a 365-day devotional of declarations, affirmations, and encouragement for women. And you don't want to miss out on that. It's just a really beautiful cover. And really, I need to get myself a copy as well. I know some guys that need the copies as well. And some families that need some copies. So you want to make sure that you do that. As I say all the time on this show, we talk about supporting one another, but I really believe it's time that we put our money where our mouth is. We need more than just your prayers. People need your support. They need your dollars. And, that's actually a biblical principle. So, you just made it very clear. Hey, if you can help out your neighbor, if you know that they're hungry and they're in need, and you have the resources to provide and to help them out, and you don't do so, then that makes you as bad, if not worse, than those that you're pointing fingers at and saying, those sinners over there and those people over there doing this and they're not doing that. Well, what are you doing? So I'm not going to stay on my platform or my soapbox too long with that. But that really does get under my skin, because there's so many people out there, believers, who are doing great things for the body of Christ, great things for the kingdom. And Nancy is one of those individuals, and she is a fantastic organization. She's doing amazing things. You guys need to support her. You really need to support her and spread the message of what she's doing and the impact that she's making. She's also available for speaking and for conferences. I'm more than sure that she will support you as you support her. So if you're looking for a great speaker who can really speak to the women in your church or your organization, go to nancyencourages.com. I'm kind of like your hype man right now, Nancy. So just hold
I
on.
know. You're taking this on the go, Joe.
Right? When you're looking for a speaker, it's important, again, instead of like looking around all over the place and pulling out people who are just secular, she can come with a message that is also spiritually and biblically driven to support the women in your ministry who may be going through, because there are people in your ministry, and I know this for a fact from my experience and what I've seen, who are suffering silently in those ministries. And what we want to do is what she's doing, she's providing a resource and a platform and a stage for those individuals to come out of the shadows so they can get the support that they need. Hey, Nancy, any final thoughts that you'd like to share with the audience here today?
I'm just going to say this one thing,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure you've heard this before, but in the Bible, it says 365 times, do not be afraid. So God is with us all the time. So if you are going through this, do not be afraid. God is with you. I promise you, he is with you. Just take that leap. Please be careful, but take that leap. And if you are in that situation and you just don't know what to do, where to even begin, send me a message and I will help you. It doesn't matter where you are. I will help you, and we will figure out a way to get you to safety and get you to where you need to be. But don't be afraid.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Make sure you're supporting Nancy and her organization and the partnership that she's involved in, guys. Thank you so much for being a part of this broadcast, Nancy. I'm really appreciative of it, like I said, because I've experienced this myself. I've seen it happen with other individuals. Why don't you close us out in a word of prayer, because someone needs to know that God is with them and he has not abandoned them. There's a lot of people out there who do feel like that, feel like God has abandoned them and they're on their own. And maybe they feel like they can't talk to anybody. Or, you can be in a situation where things are so bad, you don't even know what to pray. And so why don't you speak a word of prayer over our listeners, those who have tuned in today?
Absolutely. So, dear Jesus, I pray for those that are suffering right now, that are hurting and don't know what to do. Please plant that seed inside of them so that they know that they will be okay and that they will blossom, and that you will guide them to where it is that they need to be. Put your hand on their shoulder and just assure them that they're not alone, and remind them to not be afraid. And I ask you, Jesus, just to watch over them, get them out safely, get them to a safe place, and then make them understand that they are not worthy of that. They are not worthy of that behavior. They deserve so much better. They deserve to be loved. They deserve to be respected. And with you in their heart, we know that that's going to happen. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen and amen. Hey guys, make sure you go to Nancy's website, nancyencourages.com. Pick up a copy of her book, One Day, DAE, at a Time. Make sure you're doing that, and make sure you just support her. She's doing a great work for the kingdom. And so you just want to make sure you put your money where your mouth is and make those phone calls and support her. I'm always going to push that because I think that's so important for the kingdom. So guys, thank you so much for joining us. Again, I'm author, leadership, and team development speaker, Joe Woodley. This has been another key moment for faith. If you have any more questions or comments, contact Nancy directly, and I know that she'll be more than happy to support you. God bless each and every one of you and keep you safe.